The villages of Dumbala Dimbayu in the southern part of Ethiopia are home to the Borena people. For centuries they have made their living from pastoralism, roaming across the rangelands of Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia. But the livelihoods of some 12 million people are in jeopardy because of frequently recurring droughts and environmental degradation caused by climate change and overgrazing by large herds.
Orin guddo wanaba sagaletiya waya lenunu jifad bela inqalad anan nadalan hinduk watinna guddat yo tol war yalle sani kunam galgal kan bultani le anan le sani ken kesuma le waba orin ke yo inqalafa wate ada tenne to jene anan le manjiratan hindugani akana orin kun olla yalle cufinga Zerum keessa nam dadhabaaleen qarqaara. Ana gomnati qabu namaaleen kekken.
La du'e. Horiin du'e re'een gaafa sanuu rukkittii qaba 21 irra du'e re'een. Re'een 21 doote looni yabbiilee walitti taatu 10 irra du'e akka naf xiyyaatti. Miidhamoolaa kana arma baqanne dharriitootti Reen suucubachinne irra dhumatti arma baqanne akkasuma irra du'e.
The Borena are familiar with dealing with drought and water crises, but their resilience is affected by the frequency with which the droughts strike them. And they lack support networks, insurance, savings and alternative livelihood options. First their cattle die and then their own food security is at stake. The Borena pastoralists have coped with crises for centuries. But are they resilient against the speed with which the climate changes?
In 2010 and 11 there was a huge crisis in that area where more than 70,000 heads of livestock dead.
Yo dikkaatorii lama sadii nurra du'e akka gandi dambalaa dhibaa yoo goomne nahan yo dikkaatorii sadii nurra du'e Oriin sun ammoo namni irraa du'e miidhaa guddoo wanni inni nama irraa hangaye nyaati irratti dhugaatii irratti oriin du'uun kormiin du'aa sangaaniin du'aa dhalaan sun waatii namaa dhalaa aanaan keessaa ilmaatanii.
The climate is important for any type of livelihood, for any people living in any part of the world. It's much more serious to the livestock producer than the others, because pastoral people, they depend on livestock, and livestock depends on natural resources, and which means natural resource availability of natural resource is dependent on climate situation.
It is very difficult to practice other production system in this environment. It's only this pastoralism that exploits these resources. In the Borana rangeland, the main rainy season starts in March. It may not start, and sometimes it starts earlier and stops very soon, and it does not have a uniformity across the years, and even within a year the seasons are not constant. If we have to introduce other means of production, we have to come up with full technologies. For example, if we have to start agriculture, we have to have perennial source of water for irrigation. Otherwise it is very difficult in this environment to practice other means of livelihoods.
Wanni bokkaa kunini nuduri waaqi guddoo rooba. Gannilleen rooba, ageettilleen buuti. Roobi yeroo gannaatiif yeroo agayyaallee dansa. Horiillee margaa argata, ingabbataa, aanan dansaa keessaa dhuganii, waati dansa namaa dhalanii, waaqi ammi roobu. Yoo waaqi roobellee marri hin ba'u
Yoo marri ba'illee marri xiqqaan ba'ulleen gabbinni horii kaduriitiif hamma akka.
It is clear that water is the key factor for the pastoralists. The rains are too unreliable for agriculture. The search for water and making it accessible for livestock and people is a daily chore for the Borena.
The major perennial source of water is groundwater, and the quality is not as such good because it is contaminated because of, for example, animals may urinate. Because of that, the quality is very low, and the whole community are basically relies on the dug wells.
لكن قطعين تفرح خاخي جير خفا يا درك النبو نلنا كون خنلدو تفوتي قبل سرادات نيد خاخن كيسباها يي سنشوف حسابها جيت فراسينا كن تقبدو هاي لارو غراره
ايجي وان كان نرجين ماني نمبر كان وانا تخيجت ماني سبيخ هالي ماتي نسمع ماني سبيخ
الفادا فت وما هنا فنقم سيارة ما بولتو ديمي خراد دون دندا قود بساني جيري في ارتمر سافوقات تبوخسان فوقات يبان قربوني نورجيجس وني نورجيجس بسان بوني يروف يبان النفيد وريني نوقات آدين كاسان واتين كاسان سواتين قدم آدا اللي قالوا يواد خاسان يوغينا آدين جبه فنايجي آدا أكاتي جرات تانين ilme jalak al yo boni duf يبان نورجيجس مريك أرانجير بسان كرانجيران بقى جب خدودو وني أفلين boni wani ni karanu rami lonum ibam boni karanu rak yo maribad yo bisam arteo fokat motori yo motori len injir el fada fat to mahina fankam.
Dealing with droughts is not new for the Borena. Over centuries their indigenous knowledge and coping strategies have defined their resilience.
Climate is changing. Anybody has to adapt, besides mitigation activities. We have to adapt to the situation. We have to adjust the way we live in one way or another. Pastoralists, they do so. They've been doing this for so many years. And then they have to continue to do so. And then what are the factors that helps them to adapt? Or what are the factors constraining them from adapting the situation?
Gari nutbana ana yaballo fa ana taltalli fa ana reero fa lafti sunchuf gomitta qabti ana dirre ana miyo ana moyale ana borbor nu chuftin warma baqanne ana sun sadeen rabbani lafti tunini yo akka jirtenno marra roba achi gulu robiege ane furmati incito godanne agana sun sadeenit achi rabbani.
Borena themselves they have his own traditional communication. Borena they know each other. Borena will not pass each other unless he is greeting and knows the condition of the area. He is asking, how's the pasture, how's the water, how's the healthy of the cattle, sheep, goats, like that. Is there any disease? Is there any conflict? Is there any problem? He just passes information.
Some people argue that because of climate change, the pastoral way of life is not going to be viable anymore. Climate variability has been there for so many years. Of course, in the last 2 decades, the frequency of the effect of climate or drought is higher. But the effect or the impact is higher. It's not because of the meteorological related problem. Instead, it's because of the underlying factors.
Important underlying factors are population growth and urbanization. This limits the pastoralist possibilities to freely roam around. On one hand, there is the increasing competition for land. Cities grow and more land is needed for agriculture, infrastructure and industry. On the other hand, the grazeland is encroached with exotic bushes.
Boran rangeland was used to be savanna type, which means grass with sparsely distributed trees. But nowadays, you see, it is totally woody land. So it is totally changing. So nowadays, the density has increased in the different species which are native, encroaching to grazing areas, and it is prohibiting. It has an impact on animals on two ways. One, it prevents animals to access to grasses under the canopy. The other one is it displaces the grasses, and then it occupies space and then compete for places.
What the pastoralists are doing now, they are involved into regaining those lost land that have gone into wood and invasive species. And what the pastoralists are also doing is they are cutting down the trees and allowing the grass to regenerate. So you can see that the pastoralists are fighting back. They are not just sitting down loosely and waiting for something to happen. So they are also, some of the land that were lost to privatize people who are more influential and took some of the land. They are regaining these lands and putting them back into communal use.
The pastoralists have other strategies to adapt, by rearranging the composition of their herds, for instance, or by leaving pastoralism and starting their own businesses.
They already started keeping browsing animals like camel, small ruminants like goats and sheep. So this is to at least keep some animals after the drought, because most of the time the drought kills first the cattle and then the other browsing animals.
Faayidaa fakkeen looniiti faayidaan gaalamarroo gargar jirtuuf bona akkanaam gaalii saatii tanaanis loon amma saatii tanaanan hin qaban bonii baay'een ijjeessu akkam ji'a afurii shayyoo turu malee akka barana kan ji'a afurii shan ture ijjeessu malee hin ijjeessu tanaaf gaalii qabeen dhaabbataatu
akkas gaal tokko gurguradde gaalee kaanii 12,000 naafiti korma. Gaalee kaani man tamaariilee ijoolleellee beesetti erga mana kiyyaallee midhaan bibbitadda loon narraa alatee furursa wayifaallee kanumaan bibbitee loollee duudhaa dhowwa midhaanlee bitadeenallee kanumaan duudhowwa ijoolleen tamaariilee akkasumaan man tamaarii qabadhee waaqir wobe loollee agi du'anii kaan naa jiraatanii amma akka tansa jira.
They are now diversifying their herds. They are also diversifying their incomes. What some of them are also doing, they are also investing into other things instead of livestock. So they are selling off their livestock and they are investing into hotel construction, into education. And so before, 30 years ago, household would largely depend on livestock. Right now, they are not doing that. They are selling off their livestock. They are saving money and investing into other things.
Where some pastoralists choose to change their jobs, others use new strategies to remain in pastoralism. One of the most important new adaptations is commercial destocking, the timely sales of livestock before the droughts set in. Nowadays, commercial destocking is still initiated by the governments and NGOs.
The idea is to inject few money on them and to build their capital and to destock more animals. On the other hand, it has an advantage of mobilizing their capital to inject on the poor households.
Before, the drought comes every 10 years, but now it decreases, 5, 2. Now it's becoming every 2 years there will be drought. So lack of the grass, lack of the pasture, lack of the water, area covered by the bush, force them to destock.
It's an intentional way of taking significant stocks from the pastoral area, particularly in alert and alarm periods of the drought season. And this is done because, whenever there is a drought, there will be a limited forage and range to be grazed by the stock. The normal process things are going. Whenever there is a drought, if you are slow to respond, that's not be possible. So we need to consider as a part of the normal livestock marketing, but taken in a particular time to stock more significant livestock.
Ideally, commercial destocking should be part of the normal livestock marketing process, integrated in a well-organized market chain.
Where we are now in Dubluk, this is our market. It is once a week. It's Friday. People are coming from different districts sometimes from 2,000 to 3,000 cattle are coming here with the sheep, goats, and camel. The cows, the fat one, about 3,000 to 4,000. The oxen from 6,000 to 7,000, like that.
The livestock marketing cooperatives and unions will purchase directly from the producers, and they are linking with the end market, those who have abatters and those who export live animals. So in the middle there are people called brokers who are very information and powerful people.
The brokers will benefit, the lion's share between the wholesaler and the pastoralists. They are the one who is deciding the price.
They know the right price of the cattle, but they say this is not the right price. They know sometimes they are cheating. They also trying to sell. They are searching market because they are not searching for the pastoralists, they are searching for themselves.
The pastoralists do not have voices over there. That's one of the challenge. From the brokers, wholesalers will buy, and from the wholesalers will transport or sell to bigger industries or exporters, slaughter companies.
I am not undermining or discouraging brokers, but if they are value-adding actors, there will be a very good linkage channels from the producer to the end market chains to avoid exploitation during drought and some irregularities.
A fair and well-organized market chain is essential for successful commercial destocking, but it's only one of the requirements.
The problem with commercial destocking is always a late response. There is a system established, early warning information system and dissemination, even supported by many interventions. But the problem is in the pastoral area, they believe their traditional forecasters and the indigenous knowledge rather than the modern. So a combination of this traditional system with the conventional will be a best system.
Karaa ammayyaa nun beennu taan ammallee looni ciismoona kee ciisanillee waan isaan dhaanii jira yoo barii hamaan dur jiru walti mammaratanii moona durii guutan taan fula diqayyoo tokko bulan. Loonuudha isaanii jira dhooftii yoo bargabbaan dur jira akka isaan dhaanii jira yoo barii hamaan dur jira akka isaan dhaanii jira baramaa fula ciisanii tudaanii fula ciisanii fincaanii hormi loon hin kaatu adoo quuf qabu. Hormi loon hin kaatu hormi kun loon man kaanni yoo jedhanii loon kana boni jajjabaa dur jira oola sodaataa waan jedha fulaan amma kaanii ciisatti udaanii ciisaa fincaansulleen akeessaa uumati durii uumati horsiisee bulaa akeessifatee jira ammallee bobbaaf galchumallee irratti waan isaan dhaanii jira loollee irraa waan akkanaa kan ugarru jira yoo barii dansaan dur jiraate ballatanii corooranii bobba'anii bobba dansaa corooranii bobba'an.
In order to build capacity among the pastoralists, the government has taken the first steps to institutionalize commercial destocking.
There is a manual. The manual has been produced by the Ministry of Agriculture.
In that manual, when to conduct commercial destocking, how we use early information system, how the community is involved, how the government, the NGOs, and private actors linked with that is best put on that manual.
It was being prepared by English. We have suggested that they have to be changed to the local language of Oromic, and then it will be spread down to the community, so the community, the students can read and they tell for the relatives.
The whole guidelines, how the timely action taken on early warning, information, how our actions looks like, how we are funding, everything. So capacity building in regarding lakes is very important, crucial for the pastoral area, not only for the specialists on livestock and livestock, but also for the decision makers.
You can increase so many livestock marketing facilities in pastoral areas, but you do have to understand under what context do the pastoralists sell their animal. For just only putting livestock marketing, you don't expect them they sell the animal.
Pastoralists are always considering their livestock as their wealth, main wealth of them. Even at time of drought, they assume that at any time rain can come. So they are hesitant to bring their livestock into the market. Therefore, they'll perish. it will be too late to bring to the market.
Horii irratti wanni inni hojjate muyo. Qariin gurgurannallee waan jedhu waa dalagalee yaa barsiisanillee inni ji'oof mootummaallee yaa barsiise gara ammoo loon gaaf loon akkas jiran kaaniin gurgurannaa jedhee guddoo abdii qaba. Loon gabbatanii naanam waan kaan gara guyyeetti gurgurtaa jijjiiree manaan jaarrachuu irratti baankii keeyyachuu irratti ijoolleen barsiifachuu irratti sadarkaa duriin deemnee haan loon gabbatanii naan ammallee laa jedhee itti deemaan isaa laafa.
Instead of distributing maize and wheat, it's much better to use commercial stocking. By doing so, you can you enable the household to get cash, and then that cash can be used for different purposes. And we have seen Boran pastoralists transporting their livestock, renting a truck, and putting the animals on the truck, and taking them to where they can find pasture. So the commercial stocking is by far much better than other humanitarian intervention.
It is clear that the last word about commercial destocking has not been said. Main obstacles are the late response to early warnings and cultural factors that stop the pastoralists from acting upon these early warnings. A well-organized market chain with a fair share for everyone is a requirement. In the meantime, capacity building and the building of institutions, like cooperatives, give the pastoralists more influence on their own situation. But a growing population and less available pasture limit the pastoralists in their movements. Some developments work both ways. A new road unlocks the region, enabling cheaper and quicker transportation of fodder and livestock. But at the same time, it limits the free and safe movement of herds. Commercial destocking also needs other actors to play a role. Banks, for instance.
The role of banks in the livestock marketing is highly limited. But the main problem with our banks in Ethiopia is, if you want to take a loan, you should have to have a collateral.
For pastoralists, what they have got is all their animals, and that's not accepted as a collateral by the bank. So we have heard that there is such an experience in Sudan where pastoralists can get a loan using their animal. That would be one option to look or to explore for and find out how it can be supported.
So change is needed, but one should not rule out the resilience the pastoralists already show.
Pastoralists, they are becoming more relying on outside support than relying on their own support during drought situation. So the coping mechanisms, traditional coping mechanisms are now they are losing them. They are not there anymore. One of the reasons is increasing dependence on outside response. With short-term strategy, you cannot address a long-term problem like climate change. We have to think beyond the short-term benefits of the humanitarian interventions. Most of the non-governmental organizations working in pastoral areas, they have a very short-term strategy for pastoral development. With humanitarian support, you can save lives of people, but you cannot save livelihood.